The significant second week drop at the box office has become an all too familiar trend in modern entertainment, and it always seems to impact the same type of movies. Let's discuss.
I watch so you don't have to.
All I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
From now on, I need everyone to pay very close attention to how box office numbers are covered by the mainstream media, because there is almost always some type of manipulation at play.
You sit on a throne of lies.
For reasons that I'm sure a lot of you can think of all on your own, the media will sometimes try to manipulate numbers around certain movies, all in an effort to make them look more successful than they actually are. Sometimes, on rare occasions, they even have to admit that they are wrong. Like we saw recently when they finally admitted that Antman and the Wasp: Quantumania was a box office failure.
Jesus Christ, it's about time!
If you think back, after the first week, all you heard was this was the most successful Ant-Man movie to date, which may have been true as it pertains to first week numbers, but where did that get us at the end of the day? A flop, and it all started with a 69% drop in its second week. All you heard on social media leading up to this film's release was how great Jonathan Majors was. And there was a lot of excuses about why you shouldn't expect too much from this movie creatively. Basically laying the groundwork to get people into the theater with the lowest expectations possible.
Because it's all part of the plan.
All while trying to manufacture hype around a movie that had none. And this is the genesis of my entire point here. The media makes articles to reinforce social media narratives, and social media uses misleading box office numbers as a badge of honor, as a way of validating their opinions on subpar entertainment. If I've said it once, I've said it a million times. What people say about film on social media ultimately means nothing.
Not a damn thing!
Because with those opinions, you're only seeing a fraction of the audience who may or may not be watching these movies. Manufactured social media hype does not translate to box office, and we've seen examples of this time and time again. People can go on Twitter and beat their chests proclaiming how culturally significant a movie is, but general audiences, and I'm talking about just normal people who go to the movie theater, they think about movies much differently, and they actually support movies with their wallets instead of just using meaningless praise.
That makes sense.
What did I say from the moment that people tried to manufacture hype around Black Adam? I made a video saying nobody really cares about Black Adam. And I was right, because what happened? Another flop. Sure, it was number 1 at the box office for 2 weeks, but that was the result of releasing this movie at the right time, when it would have no competition.
Okay, I see what you did there.
In reality, I knew that general audiences didn't know who Black Adam was, and this movie wouldn't be good enough to make them interested in finding out. But if you looked on social media, there was a lot of praise for this largely forgettable movie. And then we saw it happen again recently with Scream 6. Anywhere you looked, all you saw was that this movie made more money than any Scream movie before it.
Whoopie do. Hey, I'm impressed.
Sound familiar? It's Ant-Man Quantumania all over again. And yet, in its second week, Scream 6 experienced a 61% drop. Now, if this movie was the game changer that everyone on social media proclaimed it to be, don't you think a franchise like Scream would have more staying power just based on name recognition alone? Now, I understand that horror is more niche, and you're not going to get the same kinds of audiences for those types of movies, but if this movie was as good as a lot of people said that it was, word of mouth should have carried it to even bigger numbers.
If you coulda, you woulda.
The weird thing is that the more people who commented on my review of the movie, I quickly came to realize that there were a lot more people who actually didn't like this movie than social media and the media would have you believe. Maybe your average film goer doesn't run home and add his 2 cents to a cinema score. A lot of people just realize that a movie sucks and then they move on.
That's right, it stinks!
Which of course means no repeat viewings. Something else that would contribute to larger, more sustainable box office numbers. When I say don't believe the hype, this is what I'm talking about. Because everything that I see has a skew to it. I'm not talking about the people who legitimately like and support these movies. I'm talking about people who are desperately trying to sway people's opinion on a movie for all the wrong reasons. And that brings me to John Wick 4, a movie that a lot of people seem to enjoy. I honestly thought it was pretty ridiculous and forgettable, but nonetheless it had a great opening weekend. The best in the franchise. Stop me if you've heard this before.
Something very familiar about all this.
And what happened in the second week for this so-called greatest action movie of all time, according to some people on social media? A 62% drop in its second week. And it came in second behind the new Dungeons & Dragons movie. That's right, God Mode John Wick taken down by a MCU-style D&D reboot. But of course, after all this happened, the media switched to talking about this film's global numbers to mask its domestic drop.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Now, I'm not saying that John Wick 4 is a failure, to be clear. I'm simply using this as another example of online hype not generating to second week box office success. All this positive talk around the movie clearly isn't drawing new eyes to the theater. If you need further proof that most media outlets and a majority of the people on social media have no idea what they're talking about, let's look at two somewhat recent success stories at the box office. First, we have Avatar 2, a franchise that a lot of people said held no cultural significance anymore. If you listen to the people on Twitter, there was no demand for an Avatar sequel. Well, that movie that there was no demand for just moved past Avengers Infinity War on the all-time box office list.
Oh, there's a big surprise!
So it shows you how much those people know. The funny part also is that Avatar 2 did actually have a 58% drop in its second week. But unlike these other movies that I've been talking about today, Avatar 2 actually had legitimate word of mouth. And there was hype around this movie in real life, not online. Your average moviegoer treated this movie like it was the event that it was. And as a result, it hung around long enough to become a mega hit. And then we have Top Gun Maverick, a movie that seemingly came out of nowhere last year. And with the right combination of legit buzz, word of mouth, and nostalgia done right, it became the biggest movie of last year financially. And you know what? I heard very little talk about Top Gun Maverick leading up to its release on social media. But in the end, like always, it didn't matter. And by the way, Maverick only dropped an impressive 32% in its second week. So what did we learn today? Well, once again, social media is not real life, and most of the media appears to be full of shit. And when a movie has legitimate hype around it and ends up being a pretty good movie in the process, that movie will transcend. It will become an event, even in the most unlikely of situations. But in the end, Top Gun Maverick and Avatar 2 will be the movies that people remember. The movies where the people involved took their time to make them. And all these movies with fake manufactured hype around them, complete with fanboys making excuses for them and moving the goalpost, those movies will be forgotten as quickly as they were produced and released. And a lack of long-term success at the box office proves that.
Man, I'm tired of being right.
Y'all be cool. Right on.